I've been living in this damn shed for about a month. It almost feels as though it'd be a good place to be when my wife kicks me out. Thankfully, she didn't kick me out. So it's time to go back in the cave. If you're gonna have a sponsor, might as well have a sponsor of a product that you love and use. Hopefully, it's not the last video. Let's go talk about these. Now that I've had them in my rig for months, let's go to cave. Come on, Penny. Let's go. So now I've been using CRYOTONE tubes in my rig for close to a year. I bought a pair of 12 BH7s for my DAC, and they're fantastic. And then I used the 12 BH7s in the preamp, which made a beautiful difference. Speaking of which, when I replaced the stock JJ tubes with expensive CRYOTONE 12 BH7s, the level of air went up. The depth in the soundstage improved a little bit. The refinement in the highs got a little bit better. And fast forward to today, now today I have my own pair of 300Bs, a quad of 6 SN7s, 5U4G rectifiers from CRYOTONE, 6 N1Ps. Yeah. So disclaimer, I mean, for those who've been following me, I was about to place an order for the Deckware Sarah 300B after having Steve's personal unit in for review for about 8 months, close to a year, actually. But then my son was hospitalized for just over 2 months. So let me tell you, spending 2 months every day at the hospital, even though Medicare costs here in Canada are not expensive comparatively to the US, there's still some expenses. So after 2.5 months, there was just no room anymore for a $5,000 to $8,000 toy, basically, for me to add. So I have to wait. Gotta wait a little bit. So in the meantime, that means that I am back with my very inexpensive 300B model blocks. They're, I think, like a kit from Wellborn Labs that came out, I'm going to say 10 years ago now. So that's why I currently don't have the Deckware Sarah. When finances get back on track, maybe by then I can convince Steve to make it to 11 amp. Anyways, happy to say that, yes, this video, full transparency, Wathen Audiophile is sponsoring this video. Just me believing strongly in a product, and hopefully Wathen Audiophile sends me something for free one day. Seriously, if you're going to have a sponsor, why not get a sponsor of a product that you've been using for a while, you believe in, you love? That's how I think anyways. So back to my monoblocks. I've been using the 300Bs, and just like the 6 SN7s, when it comes to burn-in or break-in, after 2 months of usage, there is zero change in their character. None whatsoever. They sound as amazing as they did the first minute I put them in there. And the engineer at Wathen Audiophile told me that those tubes had maybe 12 to 20 hours on them after when he sent them to me, because he does do some quality testing on them after he's done through the process. So yeah, for a 300B, in my experience, 300B is 50 to 100 hours for sure in terms of break-in. And these tubes, all right, okay. So basically, it costs more for me to acquire the CRYOTONE 300Bs than it was to acquire these little Wellborn monoblocks on Canuck Audio Mart or US Audio Mart for you guys in the States. I got these for $650. Keep an eye out for them. I see pairs of those all the time, different years, slightly different revisions that hover between $550 and $1,500, depending on the year. Some years there were 2 rectifiers, some years they weren't. But yeah, $650 for a pair of 300B monoblocks. Sure. $1,000, a little over $1,000 for a pair of 300Bs. Wow. Absolutely wow. I didn't know that these monoblocks could sound the way they sound. The amount of consistent flow of electrons that these provide compared to the other 300Bs I've tried in here. And that includes all the 300Bs that I had on loan from Deckware when I had the Zensara. I did do a few evenings to try out these little monoblocks. Yeah. These? Next level. But if you caught one of the videos I made recently on tube rolling, here's the thing about any high quality tube is the flow of electrons. One of the reasons high quality tubes are very expensive is the materials that they use. Because for a tube to have the best and most consistent flow of electrons, it requires to use certain materials that have a really good conductivity. When you have materials that are not as pure, what happens is in that material, on the plates where the electrons have to flow inside the tube, well, the impurities act similar to like potholes and speed bumps. So what happens is these electrons end up carving a path because they're always looking for the path of least resistance. So while those tubes get burnt in, they carve a path through that material and they always follow that same path. However, you end up with traffic on the electrons world. Like they're all flowing through the same groove, so to speak. When you're using high quality tubes that are using very pure materials or that were subject to a form of cryo treatment at the right stage of their lives, similar to a cryotone, well, now they have a more pure road, a more pure highway in the terms of the materials that the electrons are flowing on, so they're not needing to carve a path. So in the sense, in the case of the cryotone tubes, well, their treatment is applied before a path can be grooved onto the plates, so you have a really high flow of electrons, and that is really felt. In the case of the 300Bs, it's felt in the speakers big time. Because once the impurities, I think, are gone, or mostly gone, out of a tube after Wathen gets their hands on them, I don't know that it matters anymore because there's no more speed bumps or potholes for the electrons to flow through this plate that's in here. It's just pure flow on the material. That's how I understand it anyway. So because of that, you get such richness in terms of flow of sound to the rest of the components in the amplifier and in consequent to your speaker, that toe tapping feel comes in much better. You feel the dynamics. The tone in the room is gorgeous. The plucking of the strings on a guitar, you feel it in your chest. Yeah. It's not just bass that you feel in your chest. Even the mid range is pronounced and textured. Like it's more than textured. It marries perfectly the upper bass to lower mid so that it all feels real and natural. And that's why like even acoustic guitar strings feel like there's weight to it. Not exaggerated weight, realistic weight. And as the months go by, this is the type of tube that the sound becomes so overwhelmingly real. I don't listen analytically anymore. It's my brain doesn't feel like it has to. My brain gets pulled in to the emotions I feel and the connections I have to the song I'm listening to. So, yeah, out of all the things that have come and gone in my room, this is something that has come, that is not leaving, and that is multiplying. Before getting these cryotone tubes, I preferred the sound of my Melody 211 amplifier, especially when it had Linley Elite 211 tubes in it. Right now, the only thing the 211 Melody amp does over the 300B monoblocks using cryotone tubes is it probably does a little bit more low end. A little bit more. But considering I no longer use the Melody amp for low end, I only use it down to maybe 70 hertz because the rest is all controlled by a Class D amplifier for the bass drivers. Now when I use the 300B monoblocks, it outshines the melody. But only does that with these in it. Only with these. Yeah. So I don't just have these in them. I'm also using the 6N1Ps from CRYOTONE as well, which made the difference go up another notch. Because at first I put in the 300Bs and the monoblocks, sat down, and I couldn't believe at first the presence in the room and the complete transparency and lack of background. The background was clean and gone, not dark, gone. I've said this before. To me, a dark background can be clean, but it sounds a little bit closed in. Sure, you might get the sensation that maybe some instruments might be enhanced in contrast to the dark background, but I find it comes at the cost of the spatial information, the room that they're in when they're playing, the studio, the hall. Whereas a clean, transparent background that's like basically non-existent, then you feel all that spaciousness. You feel the reverb, and that's where the decay in your system, and I've mentioned this in another video as well. You want decay, start rolling rectifiers. Rectifiers will help decay. Try to find equipment that will use a very high quality choke, because a high quality choke can help improve and add some of the decay. Or call Al at Space Tech Labs and ask him what you can do to improve decay. He's got all kinds of things to help you out. So yeah, back to the 300B monoblocks. It was great at first with the 300Bs. It was absolutely layered. It was intoxicating. The music was just flowing around the room. You could feel the skin of the drums, so much to a point. You ever walk into a music store where they sell instruments? Go up to a drum, brand new set of drums. And maybe some modern drums don't have this, but in the day, there was a smell to the drums. This is the skin of the drums. There was a smell to that. It's almost, think of it as a new car smell. It doesn't smell the same as a new car smell. But anyways, if you've smelt that, you ever get that experience when you are listening to music that is so convincing and you're so into it that your mind reminds you of that smell, right? It brings you back to those moments. Well, I was getting that with the CRYOTONE. And surprisingly enough, just like when you introduce clean power, when I removed the stock SN1Ps that I had in there, there were some Russian tubes that I've had for a while. Instead, I put the CRYOTONE 6N1Ps. It felt like it was almost up another notch. It felt like the resolution got better. It even felt, now, hear me out. Even though these monoblocks are not driving bass under 70 hertz in my setup, they are not. When I put the 6N1Ps in there, it made the 300Bs perform so much better that now the information that was being fed all the way to 70 hertz, so all of that lower mid-range and upper bass was so much improved that all the lower bass felt like it was even more transparent and somehow felt faster. I get it. This is like WTF. What? I don't know how else to explain it. But I also felt the same thing when I put in the 6SN7 in my preamp. And my preamp drives both my Class D bass amp and the monoblocks. When I put the 6SN7s in the preamp, holy moly, did the bass performance jump. It was far more potent, far more control, way faster, deep. And yet it's a Class D amp, a cheap Crown Class D amplifier. And it sounded better. Okay. I have to preface, I'm also using a Puritan PSM 156 in the system. When I remove that, a lot of these differences I'm mentioning from the tubes diminish. Why? Because now there's noise going through my system. So no matter how clean and good the power delivery is that comes out of these tubes, they are still tainted by the current coming from the transformer, which has noise from my wall. I got a noisy wall. However, when I have the Puritan PSM 156 in there, then those differences amp up. They become far more noticeable. So yeah, that's it. This was a short one for now. I'm gonna be working on more things with Cryotone. Like I said, I would love for them to sponsor future videos. I have a few other tubes that I'd like to test from them. Okay, just before I let you guys go, some crappy editing, but have a look at some feedback that I've got on guys who actually tried Cryotone after watching my videos. Their experience is pretty cool. And all transparency, I don't have anyone who's tried them and reached out and said that they didn't like them. I'm not saying that'll never happen. I'm just happy to share these. Like first guy was using tungsol driver tubes in his amp, but he was previously using Sophia rectifier, and he says that he completely gets what I've been saying. He says the bass is unreal, the clarity is amazing, and even when he went back to the Sophia 6S and 7s just to see if he had some tunnel vision, I guess. He says no. Even when he goes back to the Sophia tubes, Cryotone, no contest, sounds deeper, more pure. Now he's happy he doesn't need to spend a fortune on tube rolling anymore. Another one saying that how amazing the Cryotone EL34s are. And I do believe this. I actually know a guy who was experimenting with the Cryotone EL34s in the ABX audiophile community on Discord, and he was telling me that those EL34s were doing things that he's never heard EL34s do before. Another guy is saying that he has a Galleon TS120, and he popped in a bunch of cryotones in there, and he says that it's just as I described it. Instruments sound come from a quieter background. Words in the background are easier to understand. Instruments like horns are more dynamic. Music scales up more. He says it could go on. He says even his wife heard a difference from the bedroom. That's pretty cool. Then I had another guy that had a moderate PH9, and he switched rectifier from what I could tell in his comment. Um, Hurting noise too much. I consider putting it for sale, but the Cryotone 5U4G, as many have said, completely transformed his PH9. Night and day difference. Anyways, really cool stuff, guys. And I have more feedback. I just been going through all the emails that I have going through with people. Guys, these are legit tubes. So on that note, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all again soon.